Hey ChatGPT, did Jesus and Moses fast? Were they Muslims?
Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 183. O you who have believed, decreed upon you is fasting as it was decreed upon those before you that you may become righteous. This verse indicates that fasting has been a practice for previous communities, which would include the followers of Moses and Jesus. Cleophee, Jesus and Moses are significant figures in Judaism and Christianity, and their fasting practices are part of their religious traditions. Moses, according to the Hebrew Bible, Moses fasted for 40 days and nights while he was on Mount Sinai receiving the 10 Commandments, Exodus 34 verse 28. This fast is a significant event in Jewish tradition. Jesus, in the New Testament, Jesus fasted for 40 days in the wilderness before beginning his ministry, Matthew 4 verses 1-2. This act of fasting is often seen as a preparation for his mission. As for being Muslim, both figures lived long before the advent of Islam. Islam was founded in the 7th century CE, while Moses and Jesus lived centuries earlier. However, in Islamic belief, both are considered prophets, and fasting is a practice observed in Islam during the month of Ramadan.
What do you mean by long before the advent of Islam? Islam began with Prophet Adam when he first arrived on earth, right? Please be unbiased.
You're correct in noting that, in Islamic belief, the message of monotheism and submission to God, Islam, began with Adam, who is considered the first prophet. From this perspective, all prophets, including Moses and Jesus, are seen as part of a continuous line of guidance leading to the final prophet, Muhammad, peace be upon him.
Thank you for your clarification. Okay, now that we've established the foundation of our discussion, shouldn't Christians and Jews fast as Jesus and Moses did?
Cleophee, fasting is a key practice in both Judaism and Christianity, though observed differently. In Judaism, fasting is crucial, with major days like Yom Kippur and Tisha B'Av, along with minor fasts throughout the year. In Christianity, fasting varies by denomination, with Lent being a prominent 40-day observance before Easter. While both religions encourage fasting, the practices and meanings differ, making participation a personal and communal choice.
Can you tell me if Jews and Christians fast like Muslims, meaning from before sunrise to sunset? Muslims abstain from eating and drinking during this time. Do Jews and Christians do the same?
Cleophee, Jews and Christians have different fasting practices compared to Muslims. Judaism, Jewish fasting often involves abstaining from food and drink from sunset to the following sunset, similar to the Muslim practice. For example, Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, is a 25-hour fast where Jews refrain from eating and drinking. However, the specifics can vary depending on the occasion. Christian fasting practices differ widely among denominations. Some may abstain from certain foods or meals rather than fasting from all food and drink. For instance, during Lent, some Christians might give up specific luxuries or meals but may not follow a strict fast from sunrise to sunset like Muslims. In summary, while there are similarities in the spirit of fasting, the methods and rules differ significantly between the three religions.
So, do Muslims have a more rigorous practice, as you just explained? Are they, as a whole, closer to God, Allah, or considered a better nation? And if so, why?
Cleophee, the perception of whether Muslims are closer to God or a better nation is subjective and varies by individual beliefs. Many Muslims feel their practices, like the 5 pillars of Islam, foster closeness to Allah. Community ties also strengthen this bond. Recognizing the diversity among Muslims, spirituality and devotion differ widely. Ultimately, it's a personal question influenced by faith and actions.
Thank you so much, ChatGPT, for the insight. Hey, everyone, take a look at the book in front of the microphone. You can access this book and all others completely for free. It's available for your reading pleasure and to gain more knowledge. You can also download the book for offline reading. The link is provided on the screen and in the video description. Now, let me invite Jack and Wilson for a deeper discussion on this topic. Hey everyone, before we get started, I noticed in my YouTube channel analytics that many of you watching aren't subscribed. If you could do me a big favor and hit that subscribe button, I'd really appreciate it. It motivates me and helps the channel grow, so I can create more videos like the one you're about to see. Also, as some of you requested, my team has launched a website where you can read my books and find transcripts of all my videos in the form of small booklets. The link is in video description. We're working hard to produce informative videos daily, along with books and transcripts. I'd love your help in spreading dawah, calling to Allah's message. Please click the join button to show your support. Now, let's dive in.
Welcome back, everybody, to the deep dive. Today, we're going deep into the world of fasting.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah, and, we're looking at it through, well, specifically Judaism, Christianity, and Islam.
Yeah.
You gave us some really interesting sources for this. Cleophei's book, Did Jesus Fast? Was He Muslim? Unraveling the Cosmic Connection to Fasting.
Yeah, that's a great book.
And some really cool excerpts from a conversation that you had with ChatGPT.
Right.
So I'm really excited to see what we uncover. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see, how fasting, it seems so simple on the surface.
Yeah.
But it has such a deep meaning in all these different cultures and different faiths.
It really does make you wonder, right? Like, how did this one practice become so central? But before we get into all the specifics of, each religion,
Yeah.
let's just start with a really clear definition. What exactly is fasting?
Right.
And what is its, general purpose?
So fasting at its core is really a voluntary act of abstaining, typically from food and drink.
Okay.
But it can also include other things, depending on the tradition.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and the purpose is often multifaceted,
Yeah.
It can be about cultivating spiritual growth,
Okay.
deepening self-discipline,
Mm-hmm.
fostering empathy, and strengthening one's connection with the divine, with God.
Well, and Cleophe's book uses this really, beautiful phrase,
Yes,
feeding the soul,
I love that.
which, suggests that it's not just about deprivation, right?
Yeah.
But also about cultivating something deeper within ourselves.
Absolutely. It's about shifting our focus from, the material to the spiritual.
Yeah.
Recognizing that true nourishment goes beyond just the physical,
Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. So the book also dives into the history of fasting through the lives of, some pretty key figures,
Right.
Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad. And it's fascinating to see how this practice played out, in their stories. Let's start with Moses. The fact that he fasted for 40 days and nights on Mount Sinai
Right.
while receiving the 10 Commandments, that's pretty remarkable.
Oh, it's a very powerful image, isn't it?
Yeah.
It speaks to the gravity of, Moses's mission
Yeah.
and the importance of preparation for, receiving divine guidance.
Yeah.
Those 40 days weren't just about physical endurance,
Right.
but they were about attuning himself, to a higher frequency, creating space for revelation.
Yeah, wow. And it's really interesting, the number 40.
Yeah.
It appears again in the story of Moses after the incident with the golden calf.
Right.
He fasts for another 40 days and nights,
He does.
but this time it's an act of repentance.
Exactly. This highlights how fasting can be a way to atone for mistakes,
Okay?
seek forgiveness,
Mm-hmm.
and, realignment with the divine will.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about receiving,
Right.
but also about acknowledging our shortcomings
Yeah.
and, striving for spiritual purification.
So we see these, different motivations for fasting, even within the same story.
Yeah.
That's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I think so.
And then we have Jesus, who also fasted for 40 days in the wilderness
Right.
before beginning his ministry.
Yes.
So is there something about this number 40?
It's hard to say for sure.
Yeah.
But it certainly appears
Yeah.
repeatedly
Right.
in religious texts and traditions.
Yeah.
It's possible that 40 represents, a period of transformation,
Oh.
a time of intense spiritual testing and purification that leads to a deeper understanding of oneself
Mm-hmm.
and one's purpose.
And Jesus' teachings on fasting, they seem to emphasize this, inwardness.
Yes.
So focus on sincerity and humility
Right.
rather than outward displays of piety. He even cautions against making a show of fasting in the Sermon on the Mount.
Right. It's not about proving anything to others.
Mhm.
It's about deepening our connection, with the divine.
Yeah, okay. Now let's bring in the Islamic perspective,
Right.
which you explored through your conversation with ChatGPT.
Yes.
Ramadan, a month-long period of fasting from dawn to sunset, is one of the 5 pillars of Islam.
It is.
And it's a time of intense spiritual focus and devotion, commemorating that first revelation received by Muhammad.
Ramadan is a a beautiful example of how fasting can be a communal practice.
Oh, okay.
A shared experience
Yeah.
that strengthens bonds within a community and reinforces shared values.
Mm-hmm.
The discipline and sacrifice
Mm-hmm.
involved fosters a sense of unity and deepens that spiritual awareness.
And it's interesting to note that Muhammad also fasted on Mondays and Thursdays,
Right.
even outside of Ramadan.
Yes.
So it speaks to this idea of, continuous spiritual growth,
Yes.
of incorporating these practices into our lives, not just as like isolated events,
Right.
but as a way of life.
Yes. That's a key point. Fasting isn't just a one-time ritual,
Mm-hmm.
but it's about cultivating a certain way of being in the world,
Yeah.
a mindful awareness of our physical and spiritual needs,
Yeah.
and our connection to something, larger than ourselves.
So we've seen these really fascinating examples of fasting in the lives of Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad.
Yeah,
But clearly, there are some differences in how they practiced fasting, right?
absolutely.
Like the duration, the rules around food and drink,
Right,
the specific days or periods set aside for fasting.
right.
Those details cover quite a bit.
Yeah, that's true. And exploring those differences can be really enlightening.
Okay.
For example, the month-long duration of Ramadan, with its strict guidelines, emphasizes a level of discipline and commitment.
Yeah.
That might look different from, the more intermittent fasting practices found in other traditions.
Right, right.
But ultimately, these variations just reflect the diverse ways in which humans have sought to connect with the divine
Yeah.
and cultivate a deeper understanding of themselves.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like we see this common thread,
Yeah.
but the expressions are so unique.
Exactly.
So it's amazing, like how fasting, despite all those variations,
Yeah.
it really seems to tap into this like shared human desire for connection,
Yeah.
with the divine, with ourselves, and even with each other.
That's a great observation. And Cleophee's book really emphasizes that last point,
Okay.
that connection with others.
Okay.
She argues that, by experiencing hunger ourselves, even if it's just temporary,
Yeah.
we develop a deeper understanding of those who face it, every day.
It's like stepping into someone else's shoes.
Yeah.
In a way,
right.
right?
Yeah.
Like you gain this this visceral understanding of what it means to go without.
Absolutely.
But it goes beyond just like empathy, right?
It does.
It's about
Yeah.
translating that feeling into action.
Precisely. And remember those core themes we talk about, obedience, purification, and empathy?
Yeah.
They all intertwine, in this practice of fasting.
Okay.
It's not just about abstaining from food,
Right.
but it's about aligning our actions with our spiritual values.
Okay.
But often involves, reaching out to those in need.
So it becomes this outward ripple effect.
Yeah.
Right? Like fasting can inspire acts of charity,
You can.
advocacy for justice, service to others.
Yeah.
Both the book and the ChatGPT conversation touched on that.
Yeah.
But can you give me some like concrete examples? Like how can fasting actually lead to social change?
Well, think of it this way. When we fast,
Yeah.
we disrupt our routine, we disrupt our comfort zone. And that disruption, creates space for reflection and self-examination. It prompts us to, look beyond our immediate needs and consider the needs of others.
So it's like hitting the pause button,
Yes.
right, on our usual way of life. And it allows us to
Right.
to see things from a new perspective.
Exactly. And that shift in perspective,
Yeah.
that can be incredibly powerful. It can make us more attuned to the suffering around us,
Yeah.
less focused on our own desires, and more willing to make a difference.
So Cleophee mentioned some like really inspiring historical examples
She does.
in her book.
Yes.
Gandhi, for instance.
Right.
He used fasting as a powerful form of, nonviolent resistance.
Yeah, he did. Gandhi believed that fasting could, awaken the conscience of both the oppressor and the oppressed.
Wow.
It was a way to appeal to a higher moral authority, to challenge injustice through self-sacrifice and unwavering conviction.
That's such a powerful example of how fasting can be a tool for social change on this like grand scale,
Right?
but also happens on a smaller everyday level. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
People use fasting to raise awareness for causes they believe in, to, motivate themselves to volunteer their time, to inspire others to give to charity.
Right.
It's a reminder that our spiritual practices, can have a real impact on the world around us.
It's like that quote from the Dalai Lama, be kind whenever possible. It is always possible.
Yeah.
Like, fasting helps us remember that kindness is not just a sentiment,
Right.
but a call to action.
Beautifully put.
Yeah.
Now, let's shift gear a bit and talk about the health benefits of fasting.
Okay.
Cleophee's book certainly doesn't shy away from those.
Right.
And it's fascinating to see how ancient wisdom intersects with modern science in this area.
Right. It's like practices that have been around for centuries are now being validated by, scientific research.
Right.
It's almost like we're rediscovering the power of these ancient traditions.
Exactly.
So what does the science say? What are some of the most compelling health benefits associated with fasting?
One of the most well-researched areas is weight management.
Okay.
Fasting can create a calorie deficit, which can lead to weight loss.
Right.
But it's not just about shedding pounds. It's about how fasting impacts our metabolism.
Yeah, I've heard that intermittent fasting, in particular,
Yes.
is good for, boosting metabolism.
Yeah.
Is there any truth to that?
There's growing evidence to support that claim, yes.
Okay.
Intermittent fasting can help regulate insulin levels,
Okay.
which play a crucial role in, how our bodies utilize and store energy. It can also improve insulin sensitivity,
Okay.
which is essential for preventing type 2 diabetes.
That's incredible. So fasting could potentially help us lose weight, improve our metabolic health,
Right.
and even reduce our risk of, chronic diseases.
The research is quite promising.
Wow.
But the benefits, go beyond just metabolism.
Okay.
Some studies suggest that fasting can positively affect heart health as well.
Really? How so?
Well, fasting has been shown to lower blood pressure, cholesterol levels, and triglycerides. These are all, major risk factors for heart disease.
Wow, that's amazing. And Cleophee also mentioned that fasting can boost brain function.
Yeah.
Is there any, research to back that up?
There is emerging research suggesting that fasting can enhance cognitive function.
Okay.
And potentially even protect against neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's.
Hold on. So fasting could make us, sharper.
Potentially.
And potentially ward off brain decline.
Yeah, it's still...
That's incredible.
It's still early days in terms of the research, but the findings are certainly exciting.
Yeah.
Fasting seems to stimulate the production of a protein called BDNF.
Okay.
Which is vital for brain health and growth.
So we've got weight management, metabolic health, heart health, brain health.
Right.
Is there anything fasting can't do?
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
No, what?
While the research is promising.
Yeah.
It's essential to remember that fasting isn't a magic bullet. It's not a replacement for a healthy lifestyle overall.
It's not like you can just fast your way out of bad habits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it seems like, it can be a powerful tool when combined with, other healthy choices.
Right.
Absolutely. And it's crucial to approach fasting with a balanced perspective, especially when it comes to, these health claims. What works for one person might not work for another.
That's where those practical considerations come in, right?
Exactly.
Making sure that you're fasting safely and in a way that's right for your body.
Exactly. And Cleophee emphasizes the importance of consulting, healthcare professionals before starting any kind of fasting regimen.
Yeah.
Especially if you have any underlying health conditions.
And I think it's worth reiterating that point.
Yes.
If you are thinking about trying fasting, talk to your doctor first.
Yes.
It's always better to be safe than sorry.
Couldn't agree more. And it's also crucial, to listen to your body while fasting. Don't push yourself beyond your limits.
Yeah.
And make sure you're staying hydrated and getting adequate nutrition during your eating period.
So we've explored the spiritual, the social, and even the physical benefits of fasting.
We have.
But what about the practice itself?
Right.
What does fasting actually look like in the modern world?
That's a great question. And that's, where things get really diverse.
Okay.
Cleophee outlines a fascinating array of, contemporary fasting practices in her book.
Okay, so let's dive into those. What are some of the most common ways that people fast today?
Well, one of the most popular approaches is intermittent fasting.
Yep.
It's, incredibly flexible
Yeah.
and doesn't require strict dietary restrictions,
Okay.
which is probably why it's gained so much traction.
Yeah, I've heard about all these different, methods. 16.8, 5.2. It
Right.
can get a bit confusing. Can you, break it down?
Sure. So 16.8, for example,
Yeah.
involves fasting for 16 hours
Okay.
and eating within an 8-hour window each day.
Okay.
The 5.2 method involves eating normally for 5 days
Okay.
and restricting calories for 2 non-consecutive days.
Okay.
There are many variations,
Yeah.
but the basic principle is the same.
Okay.
Cycling between periods of eating and fasting.
And then, of course, you have the traditional religious fasts,
Right.
which continue to hold, deep spiritual significance
Absolutely.
for millions around the world.
They do.
We talked about Ramadan earlier.
Yeah.
But Lent, observed by many Christians during the 40 days leading up to Easter,
Yes.
is another really powerful example
Yes.
of, communal fasting.
Yes, these practices have been around for centuries
Yeah.
and continue to offer a profound way to, connect with one's faith and community.
Cleophee's book also mentions the Daniel fast,
Right.
which is inspired by the biblical story of Daniel.
Yes.
What exactly does that entail?
So the Daniel fast typically involves a plant-based diet,
Okay.
focusing on, whole, unprocessed foods.
Okay.
It's about simplifying your eating habits
Okay.
and, aligning them with principles of clean living
Mm-hmm.
and spiritual devotion.
So it's not just about what you eat,
Right.
but also why you eat it,
Yes.
right? It's about connecting your food choices
Exactly.
to your spiritual goals.
Exactly.
Okay. And then you have water fasting,
Yes.
perhaps the most extreme form of fasting,
Right.
which involves consuming only water for a set period.
Right.
That takes serious dedication. What, the motivations behind water fasting?
So people water fast for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
Some do it for detoxification,
Okay.
believing it, cleanses the body.
Okay.
Others see it as a way to, deepen their spiritual connection
Mhm.
or enhance mental clarity.
Okay.
But it's important to note that water fasting should only be undertaken with, careful consideration
Right.
and ideally under the guidance of a healthcare professional.
It's fascinating to see this whole spectrum of, modern fasting practices.
Yeah,
From the very, very flexible to the
Yeah.
incredibly strict.
it is.
It seems like there's something for everyone, right?
Yeah.
Depending on their goals and beliefs.
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Fasting has evolved and adapted
Yeah.
over centuries
Right.
to fit, different needs and contexts.
Yeah.
But one thing remains constant. It's a practice with the potential to transform our lives in profound ways, inwardly and outwardly.
It seems like we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive,
We have.
exploring everything from the historical roots of fasting
Yes.
to its modern day applications.
Right.
We've talked about the spiritual, social, and even physical dimensions of this ancient practice,
Mm-hmm.
and it's clear that it continues to hold a powerful allure for many people.
It certainly does. And as we wrap up, I
Yeah.
want to circle back to one of the most compelling concepts.
Okay.
We discuss that sense of cosmic connection
Yes.
that Cleophee talks about in her book.
That idea really resonated with me.
Yeah.
This notion that fasting can, align us with natural rhythms, with the universe itself.
Right.
But I have to admit, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it.
Yeah.
How does that actually play out
Okay.
in the context of fasting?
Well, one way to think about it
Yeah.
is through, the timing of certain fasts.
Okay.
We talked about Ramadan,
Mm.
which is observed, during a specific lunar month.
Right.
That connection to the moon cycles
Yeah.
adds a layer of, meaning and symbolism to the practice.
Right.
It's not just about, abstaining from food and drink,
Mm-hmm.
but it's about aligning yourself with those natural rhythms.
Right. And Lent, too, it's observed during the 40 days leading up to Easter,
Exactly.
which falls around the time of the spring equinox.
Exactly. There's a sense of, renewal and rebirth
Yeah.
associated with that time of year, which adds another layer of depth
Right.
to the practice of fasting.
And even beyond, specific religious traditions,
Yeah.
many people find a sense of cosmic connection through, practices like mindful eating or fasting during, particular astrological events.
Right.
It's like they're tapping into a deeper awareness of the interconnectedness of all things.
It's fascinating how these ancient practices are, finding new life and meaning in the modern world. People are seeking ways to connect with their spirituality, with nature, with something, larger than themselves.
Right.
And fasting can be a powerful pathway.
And that brings us back to those core themes.
Yeah.
We've been exploring, throughout this deep dive, obedience, purification, empathy.
Yeah.
Those ideas seem to weave themselves into this concept of cosmic connection as well.
They do. When we fast with a sense of surrender and intention, we're aligning ourselves with something greater than our individual desires. We're opening ourselves to, a deeper experience of both ourselves and the world around us.
It's like we're stepping outside of our usual routines into this space where we can connect with something, more profound.
Yes.
Something that transcends our everyday experience.
Exactly. And that's where, the real magic of fasting happens.
Yeah.
The transformation, the growth, the deeper understanding of ourselves and our place in the universe.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought.
Okay.
Imagine for a moment that you're standing beneath a vast, star-filled sky.
Okay.
Feel that cool night air against your skin.
Mm-hmm.
The stillness of the night surrounding you.
Yeah.
Now imagine yourself connecting to that vastness, that sense of mystery and wonder.
That's the feeling we're talking about, that sense of awe and connection that fasting can help us tap into.
And as you go about your day, remember that sense of possibility.
Yes.
That openness to something greater than yourself.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe fasting is the key to unlocking that deeper connection within you.
Maybe so.
Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey.
Liz, thank you.
Until next time, we've been on quite a journey, right? Exploring fasting.
We have.
It's clear that it's far more than just,
Thank you for joining us for today's podcast. I hope you've gained some valuable insights. If you're a truth seeker, yearning for divine light and ready to step out of darkness, now is your moment. The truth is that Allah is the one and only creator of the universe. He has sent over 124,000 messengers and prophets to guide humanity, starting with Adam and culminating with the final messenger, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon them all. If you resonate with this message, you might be ready to embrace Islam. Simply recite the Shahada, the Islamic declaration of faith. For further support, feel free to join our WhatsApp group. You can send us a private message there. The link is in the video description. Don't wait until it's too late. We look forward to connecting with you soon.